In the quaint suburban town of Everwood, the Calloway family was the epitome of success and happiness. Thomas, a renowned surgeon, his wife Eliza, a beloved schoolteacher, and their two children, Max and Lily, lived a seemingly perfect life. Their idyllic existence, however, was about to be shattered in a way they never anticipated. It all began one crisp autumn morning when Thomas received a perplexing phone call. The voice on the other end was calm and chillingly anonymous, simply stating, "We know who you are, and we are coming for what's ours." Before Thomas could demand an explanation, the line went dead. Puzzled and unnerved, he tried to dismiss it as a wrong number or a tasteless prank. However, within days of the mysterious call, strange occurrences began to unfold. First, their credit cards were maxed out with purchases neither Thomas nor Eliza had made. Then, two loans were taken out in their names, plunging them into sudden debt. The family's confusion turned to horror when they received a notification that their social security numbers had been used to falsify employment records across the state. Desperate for answers, Thomas and Eliza approached the local police. The investigation led by Detective Marlene Shaw quickly unearthed that their identities had not just been stolen, they had been replaced. Someone was living parallel lives as the Calloways, complete with forged documents and fake accounts. As the police delved deeper, they uncovered that the imposters were part of a larger, more sinister network of identity thieves, skilled in erasing and assuming lives without a trace. The real Calloways were caught in a web of deceit that threatened everything they held dear. With their lives upended, they were forced to confront the reality that they were no longer just victims of fraud, but targets in a menacing game of shadows. To make matters worse, the threats became more personal and direct. A mysterious car was often seen parked across the street at odd hours, watching their every move. Their mail started to go missing, and bizarre charges from other states showed up on their bank statements. Each clue led to more questions, with every answer sketching a deeper, darker conspiracy. As fear crept into their lives, the Calloways became increasingly isolated. Friends began to pull away, uneasy at the chaos swirling around the family. Thomas found whispers following him at the hospital, and Eliza's job at the school became strained under the weight of suspicion. Their children, once carefree and joyful, now faced bullying and alienation at school as rumors spread unchecked. The turning point came when a close family friend who had been assisting them suffered a suspicious break-in. Files were stolen, and the message was clear. Someone was trying to silence their quest for truth. Determined not to be intimidated, Thomas and Eliza decided to fight back. They teamed up with Detective Shaw, venturing into the murky underbelly of the criminal web that had ensnared them, seeking to reclaim their stolen lives. As the sun set over Everwood, the fake twilight mirrored the darkening cloud over the Calloway family, marking just the beginning of their nightmare. This battle would demand everything they had, risking not just their identity, but their very lives. The Calloway family, once symbols of community and success, now found themselves embroiled in an invisible war. With Detective Shaw leading the charge, their investigation took them to the heart of a complex network involving cyber thieves and con artists skilled in the arts of digital manipulation and human deception. As they dug deeper, they learned that the architects of their misery were not mere petty criminals, but part of an organized syndicate specializing in identity theft on a massive scale. These criminals didn't just steal identities. They inhabited them, exploiting lives for financial gain before discarding them like worn-out clothes. Thomas and Eliza's pursuit of justice brought them to a pivotal encounter with a whistleblower from within the criminal network. The whistleblower, a former hacker known only as Echo, agreed to meet under the cover of darkness in an abandoned warehouse. Echo revealed that the network had branches in multiple countries, and their operations were funded by a shadowy figure known only as the Puppeteer. Echo provided the Calloways with crucial data, including encrypted files that contained evidence of the syndicate's activities and a list of potential next targets. However, before more could be revealed, the meeting was ambushed by masked men. In the chaos, Echo was captured, but Thomas and Eliza narrowly escaped, their resolve hardened by the ordeal. Back at home, the danger to their family became even more palpable. Their house was vandalized, and chilling messages were left, warning them to stop digging further. Undeterred, Thomas and Eliza fortified their home and took steps to protect Max and Lily, who were now under the watchful eye of trusted family friends. The data Echo had provided proved to be a treasure trove. With Detective Shaw's help, they decrypted the files, uncovering not just the identities of other victims but also hints of a larger plan. It became clear that the Puppeteer was not just stealing identities for money, but was part of a broader scheme aiming to influence key economic and political events. As the pieces of the puzzle started to fit together, Thomas and Eliza realized that their plight was merely the surface of a deep-seated rot affecting the very core of society. Their fight had just transformed from a personal battle to a crusade against a systemic menace. As winter approached, the cold winds seemed to echo the chilling grip of the Puppeteer over their lives. The Calloways knew that they were no longer fighting just for themselves, but for all those who were voiceless, whose lives had been silently hijacked by this faceless enemy. The bitter chill of winter in Everwood mirrored the icy fear that gripped the Calloway family, but it also steeled their resolve. Thomas and Eliza, with Detective Shaw ever by their side, began to connect the complex web of deceit spun by the Puppeteer and his criminal syndicate. The encrypted files had opened a Pandora's box, one that revealed unsettling alliances between high-profile business moguls and shadowy underworld figures. Amidst these revelations, an unexpected ally emerged, Agent Alicia Cortez from the FBI. Agent Cortez had been tracking the Puppeteer from a different angle, focusing on the syndicate's role in international money laundering. The convergence of local police efforts with federal resources marked a turning point in the investigation. Together, they mapped out a strategy to dismantle the network, using the Calloways case as the linchpin to expose the broader crimes. Their plan hinged on tracing the flow of stolen identities back to their source, a task that required both technological savvy and unyielding courage. The operation led them to a series of safe houses used by the syndicate. Coordinated raids uncovered not just stolen goods and forged documents, but also hostages, people who had been living in fear after having their lives brutally hijacked. Among them was Echo, the whistleblower, who had managed to survive his captivity. His reunion with Thomas and Eliza was emotional, reinforcing their commitment to ending the tyranny of the Puppeteer. With each raid, the net tightened around the syndicate, but the Puppeteer remained elusive. Clues pointed to his international travels, a cat-and-mouse game across borders. The Calloways and their team had to rely on a patchwork of international law enforcement cooperation, threading together the legal and logistical challenges posed by the global nature of the crime. Throughout this harrowing journey, the Calloway family faced immense personal strain. Thomas and Eliza's marriage was tested by stress and danger. Their children's sense of security was shaken, and the fabric of their daily lives was torn. Yet, through each obstacle, their love and mutual respect forged a stronger bond. They were no longer just a family. They were a unit of warriors, fighting not just for their future, but for the future of all those affected by identity theft. As spring hinted at its return, bringing a sense of renewal to Everwood, the Calloways planned their final move. The climax of their year-long nightmare loomed on the horizon, a direct confrontation with the Puppeteer. They knew the risks were monumental, but so were the stakes. Spring's thaw brought not only a renewal of life to Everwood, but also a renewal of purpose to the Calloway family. The groundwork laid during the harsh winter months was about to culminate in a decisive showdown. Agent Cortez had traced the puppeteer's last known location to a secluded estate in the rolling hills of a neighboring country. The plan was set, the stakes were high, and the air was thick with anticipation. With meticulous precision, a joint task force consisting of FBI agents and local law enforcement prepared to raid the estate. The operation was risky. The puppeteer was notorious for his paranoia and had eluded capture through layers of security and decoys. Thomas and Eliza, though civilians, insisted on being part of the operation, driven by a need for closure and justice. The day of the raid dawned clear and crisp. As the task force approached the estate under the guise of dawn's early light, tensions ran high. The estate, a fortress of modern security hidden behind old-world charm, was more formidable than they had anticipated. Breaching the estate's defenses required stealth and precision. The team split into groups, with Thomas and Eliza accompanying Agent Cortez as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the sprawling mansion. They encountered little resistance initially, suggesting that their approach had been undetected, or so they hoped. As they reached the core of the mansion, they stumbled upon a high-tech control room, its screens flickering with data and surveillance feeds from around the globe. It was here, amid the glow of monitors, that they finally faced the Puppeteer. Not the shadowy figure they had imagined, but a man of middling years, whose ordinary appearance belied his extraordinary influence. The Puppeteer, real name Adrian Vosk, was surprisingly calm as he turned to face his intruders. The confrontation was tense, with Vosk trying to negotiate his way out, offering insights into other criminal activities in exchange for immunity. His arrogance was palpable, believing himself untouchable even in capture. Agent Cortez led the negotiations, her voice steady but icy. As Vosk detailed the network's operations, it became clear just how deep and far-reaching his influence had been. But the Calloways were not swayed by his offers or threats. They stood firm, their presence a silent testament to the resilience of the victims. Finally, after hours of standoff, Vosk was arrested. The estate was secured, revealing a trove of evidence critical to dismantling the remaining structures of the syndicate. As Vosk was led away in handcuffs, Thomas and Eliza felt a profound sense of relief mixed with disbelief. Their long nightmare was over, but the journey to rebuild their lives was just beginning. As they exited the estate, the early morning sun broke over the horizon, casting long shadows but also warming the cold ground. It was a new day, a symbol of new beginnings and hard-won victories. With Adrian Vosk, alias the Puppeteer, securely in custody, the Calloways faced the daunting task of piecing their lives back together. The victory was sweet, yet the aftermath of their ordeal was overwhelming. The syndicate's network had been extensive, and its disassembly brought new challenges to light. As authorities sifted through the evidence gathered from Vosk's estate, dozens of cases worldwide began to unravel, each thread exposing the vulnerabilities in a connected world. Thomas and Eliza, forever changed by the events, found themselves at the center of media attention. Their story, a dramatic saga of identity theft and personal courage, captivated the public. However, the spotlight was a double-edged sword. While it brought awareness to the issue of identity theft, it also imposed an intense public scrutiny on their personal lives. Amid the chaos, The Calloways strived to reclaim their sense of normalcy. Thomas returned to his practice, though the hospital atmosphere bore the subtle marks of his ordeal. Patients and colleagues alike looked at him with a mix of sympathy and curiosity, but his dedication to healing others remained undiminished. Eliza took a sabbatical from teaching, using the time to advocate for victims of identity theft, channeling her energies into helping others avoid the pain her family had endured. Max and Lily, the children who had faced their own battles during the family's crisis, began to show signs of recovery. Lily, more introspective, turned to art as her refuge, creating vivid paintings that expressed her journey from darkness to light. Max, ever resilient, found solace in sports, where he could channel his energy and frustrations into physical exertion. As spring gave way to summer, the family took a much-needed retreat to a quiet seaside town. The time away from Everwood allowed them to reconnect, to strengthen the bonds that the year's stress had tested. They walked on the beach, talked under the stars, and slowly, the shadows that had loomed so large began to recede. Yet, the journey was far from over. The Calloways knew that while one villain had been vanquished, the system that allowed such a villain to thrive still existed. Resolved to fight against these systemic issues, they planned their next steps. They would work to ensure that what happened to them would not easily happen to others. The tranquility of the seaside sojourn was a balm, but it was also a moment of gathering strength. They were no longer just survivors of a crime. They were advocates, ready to engage in a broader battle against the dark underbelly of the digital age. As autumn returned, marking a full year since their ordeal began, the Calloways found themselves back in Everwood, transformed and fueled by a renewed sense of purpose. The town that once knew them as victims now saw them as champions of a crucial cause. Their advocacy had not only helped heal their own wounds, but had also ignited a movement that empowered others to protect their identities and seek justice. Thomas and Eliza launched a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting victims of identity theft and lobbying for stricter data protection laws. Their work brought them to the corridors of power, where they testified before legislative bodies, advocating for change that would prevent the kind of suffering they had endured. Their voices, once stifled by fear and uncertainty, now resonated with authority and compassion. Their efforts were beginning to bear fruit. New legislation was drafted, focusing on enhancing cybersecurity measures and providing clearer pathways for victims of identity theft to reclaim their lives. The Calloways' story was instrumental in these developments, serving as a poignant reminder of the human cost behind the statistics. Meanwhile, Max and Lily thrived in their new roles as young advocates. Inspired by their parents' resilience and dedication, they spoke at schools and community centers, educating their peers about the importance of safeguarding personal information. Lily's artwork was featured in campaigns raising awareness about cyber safety, and Max organized charity sports events to fundraise for their cause. The family also found solace in the community of Everwood, which rallied around them. The support was not just in their advocacy efforts, but in the everyday moments that stitched the fabric of their lives back together. Neighborhood gatherings, local school events, and simple nights out at their favorite local diner. These small acts of normalcy reinforced their healing. As the second autumn since the ordeal painted the town in hues of orange and gold, Thomas and Eliza stood hand in hand, watching their children play in the leaf-strewn park. They realized they had come full circle. The pain of the past was still a memory, but it no longer defined them. Instead, it had carved out a path to a future where they could make a difference. In a quiet, reflective moment, watching the sunset paint the sky with colors of fire and peace, the Calloways knew they were no longer just a family that had survived a crime. They were a beacon of hope, and a testament to the power of resilience. The web of lies that once threatened to destroy them had instead woven a stronger tapestry of their lives, rich with purpose and bound by a commitment to help others. Their story, a poignant blend of loss, courage, and triumph, would be remembered not just in Everwood, but wherever the shadow of identity theft loomed. For the Calloways, every end was a new beginning, and every fall was a precursor to a rise. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more stories like this, hit that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And let me know on which topic you would like to see stories next. And check out these other stories you might enjoy. See you in the next one. Till then, take care and goodbye.